Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks so much for joining me on this webinar. Today I want to cover just some basic navigation that's available to you. We're going to cover mostly what's on the public side. I'll show you a little bit about what's on the private side. We'll walk through, like I said, the map navigation. We're going to toggle some layers and see how that works. We're going to go through base maps. Then we're going to dig into search functions. We're going to go into the draw and measure tool and just kind of what those function for, and then identify what the identify tool is for. So let's go ahead and get started here. We'll start with some pretty basic stuff. The map itself is a pretty easy thing to function around. To navigate around the map, it's literally as simple as left click and drag. Zooming can be done in two different ways. So we can zoom in using our scroller on our mouse, or we can use these tools on the side. So we can zoom in, zoom out, zoom out. We also have a function to go to a previous location. So if you were at one place and need to get back there, you can quickly get there, and then you can go back to the other stuff that you were looking at. One more function that we have is current location. This won't work for me right now because obviously I'm in Omaha, but if you were out in the field and for some reason needed your current location, you can click that button. It's going to zoom to where you're located on this map. All right, so that kind of gives you an idea of basic map navigation. Let's talk a little bit about layers. So on the public-facing side of Dodge County's website here, we have three layers available. We have our parcels, we have our sections, and we have our roads. So we can toggle those on and off. Now you just have your sections. Now you have nothing. So you can really get what you want to see available and not make your map look very overloaded with information. Let's turn these back on. And then Dodge County does have a roads layer, and basically what this is able to do, and we'll zoom in here, is it maps out all the roads, gives the correct names that you would want these to be by. I know that these base maps aren't always correct, so having that information available to you is important, and we'll dig into a little bit more about the base maps as we move forward. I do want to log into the site here to give a couple more examples of these layers and how they're used. So I'm going to toggle off the roads layer, and I have on now the IOLL layer. So what this is able to do, what we did with this layer when we built this for Dodge County, is label all of those IOLLs. They show up as blue dots on this map. You can see that, and I'll get into a little bit more about what that information looks like there as we move forward. So let's walk through the base maps. So I think that this is really important. And Dodge has some unique things on theirs, just so everybody knows. So we have this kind of basic overlay map that looks like a Google Maps or any other sort of basic mapping software. These are actually controlled by Esri. So when we talk about that road layer and those names being incorrect, that's something that we as GWorks don't have control over. We can update them and let them know that changes need to be made. It's not always something that can be done. So an easy way to remedy that is to add a roads layer to your tab. If you ever have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. So let's walk through the different base maps that we have available. So Esri gives us these kind of flyover maps that give you an idea of some of the stuff that's going on in your parcels and that type of stuff. These are a little bit limited because they get a little blurry at certain times, and that's just based on how they fly. So you can only get so many pixels based on the imagery that they take, so these aren't always great. I do want to point out some different things that Dodge has here. So they have 2019 imagery. That's something not currently available with just basic Esri mapping. Dodge County works with a company called EagleView and has something called pictometry ran over their county every once in a while. That's why they have this 2019 imagery. It is a little bit better quality, as you can see, than the standard Esri-based map. There are other ways that you can get really good imagery. For instance, we here at GWorks do obliques, so we can actually fly over points and get really good pictures of this. But pictometry offers kind of a similar service to that. These maps can be great for verifying new things. As you can see, these are a little bit more pixelated, so you don't get quite as good of a view. They're also not typically taken when trees have given or have let go of their leaves. Those are two things that are important to note when either pictometry or obliques that we do. But it kind of gives you that historical view of, okay, did they add any new structures? Did they do anything like that? Kind of that general overview without having to go and actually walk the property. There are a couple other things that we have here. So this is Dodge County's topology. It's going to give them the elevation and different information about that. But just to kind of give you an idea of what they have there. And then we actually have terrain, which is going to just give you a little bit more of a 3D view of what's going on in your county. So let's just go back to this basic street view. I want to talk about the search. So this is a really powerful tool. Couple of things to note is when you're searching, you do need to have the layer turned on. So that's how it's going to recognize, that's how the search function recognizes the data that needs to be pulled. So let's go ahead and start with a pretty basic thing here. We're going to search for a parcel ID. So I will get one pulled up here. Just a slight mistype. And what that's going to do is pull up the information that we have on that parcel. It's going to zoom into that parcel and highlight it so that you can actually see it. Pretty easy to search by parcel. The next thing that I want to do is we can search by section, township, and range. And what this is going to do is, once again, zoom in on the map. It's going to select all of the parcels that are in this section, township, and range. This is going to give you the option to export that to an Excel spreadsheet, export to a PDF. But yeah, it gives you that option to grab a larger scale amount of parcels if you ever had any questions that you got. Hey, who are my neighbors? Anything like that can be answered with that. The next way we can search is we can search by either address or we can search by name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a search here for the last name Smith. It's going to pull up anybody in the county that has Smith associated with it. So it won't block out certain things. So for instance, she has Smith in her name. It is going to pull that result, but it kind of gives you that general idea. That's going to highlight all of the parcels that have Smith associated with it in the owner name here. Now I want to get into some of the layers. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the roads layer, and let's say that we need to see all of the parcels associated with a road. With that roads layer, we do need to search exactly for what that road is called. It's going to zoom out. It's going to highlight that road, select the parcels that are attached to that, and you'll be able to pull out that information. The one thing I do want to highlight on this is we do have this filter by option. So let's say you don't really care about the road, but you just want to see the parcels. Boom! Now all you have is the parcel information for that. Once again, you could export all that to an Excel sheet or a PDF. So if you needed to get in touch with any of these folks, you have that capability to do that. The last layer I want to take a look at here is going to be the IOLL. So as you can see here, this is something that we've done for Dodge County. If you have any questions about how to get an IOL layer, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you about that. But basically, we place the points where those IOLs are located. They now become a searchable function in here, and it can host some of that data that's related to the IOLL. So once again, we have our IOLL layer turned on. We can search now for the IOLL ID or the PID associated with that IOLL. And now you can see that that one's been brought to the map. If we want to get a closer view of it, we can press show on map. It's going to zoom into it, and it pulls up all the information that's related to that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Identify tool and what that's able to do. So we can now select this parcel. Turn that off. And we're going to be able to pull up all the parcel information that's available with this. If we select the IOLL, it's going to select all of the layers that are associated with that IOLL. So you have all of your parcels, you have your sections, you can turn all of these off. All I want is the information about the IOLL. Now I have that available to me. So there's a lot of functionality with this search, with the general search that's available to you. The last couple things that I want to cover are going to be a couple of tools that are really useful for submitting tickets, for answering questions to your citizens. So the Draw and Measure tool. We're going to go ahead and start with the Measure tool, and there's a bunch of different things that you're capable to do with this. So let's say, for instance, you now find out that you have a large piece of irrigation that's been added to a parcel. So we want to be able to place a radius. We know that it's 98 acres of that. So we want to be able to do the geometry of that. We can go ahead and place that point. And if this is really helpful for us when you're submitting tickets. So if you want to take a screenshot of this or print screen that, you can do that by using this print tool right here. But this just gives our techs a better idea of what they need to do when things like that happen. So you can now see this. We also have the ability to do this with a line. There's a bunch of different length units that you can choose from when it comes to that. So for this instance, we're going to use feet. Let's say that the landowner has called me and said, hey, I just am curious how big my parcel is. We make one click, and then to get the final result, we double click. And now we know that it's 2,437 feet. So this just kind of gives us that idea of being able to actually measure in that spatial context. We also have the option to do a freehand line, so if you needed to draw something out that was a little bit more intricate than a straight line, you have that capability. The last thing that I want to cover is going to be the polygon. So you have a unique shape that you need to draw. In order to do this, one click. I apologize, my draw tool is so now we have this triangle. We want to get a picture of what are all of the feet or acres in here. Double click. We know we have 8.276 acres. These are going to be GIS acres, but it can give you kind of that general, if anybody had any questions. It's going to give our support team a lot of information that they need in order to make better cuts when they are updating your data. All right. And then the last thing that we have here is just a complete freehand polygon, so this is not going to make you click, click, click. But the most important thing to note here is double click is how you're going to end how you do that. You have the option to edit the measure. So let's say that we didn't quite get this right. We can now select this and make changes. So we want to drag this out. Drag this out. It's going to update that picture for you. All right, and the last thing that I want to give everybody kind of a look at here is going to be the draw tool. So there's a lot of unique things that we can do with this. It's very similar to the measure tool, except that it's not going to give you that measurement. So let's just say, for instance, at Dodge County, they added an IOL, and they need to submit a ticket to us. What they can do is they can drop a point, and we're going to change the color of this here. So you have a lot of flexibility when it comes to the color. What we will do is go ahead and drop a point just with a single click. Let's say they need to let us know that this is going to be an additional IOL, so you can add the text to that. Once you type that in there, all you have to do is click on the map. Boom. Now our team would know that that's an IOL. This can be very useful if you had any questions. If you had any questions from your citizens about what's on my parcel, or they had a question about land use or anything like that, you could label it out for them without giving them too much information. So that kind of gives you an idea there. I will do one more thing just to show you kind of the contrast that you can make. But let's say, once again, we have 98 acres of irrigated. We can drop that here. You see that? Add some text. We want it to be blue. We're going to go ahead and let them know that it's irrigated. We can drop that right in the middle there. So it's really easy to be able to send off the pictures on this and give that kind of spatial awareness piece to it. We'll go ahead and delete these. If you ever have any questions about any of these tools, always feel free to reach out. I do want to just show the print functionality. So with this, if you ever had to send this off or you needed to submit us a ticket, there's multiple ways that this can be done, and it can be done in different sizes. It can give you a scale. You can email it directly, or you can print it. This is what it's going to look like. Has all of the different layers that you've selected on, so that people know exactly what everything is, so it creates that legend for you. But this is kind of a unique function. You can say this is a PDF. You can actually physically print it out. You have all of those options through your regular print function through your computer. All right. So that is pretty much everything that I wanted to cover today. Be on the lookout for another webinar in March. We're going to dig in a little bit more on the what's behind your login and some of the tools available to you there. And I really appreciate everybody taking the time to jump on this webinar today. I hope it was helpful. And in the meantime, if you have any questions about anything that we discussed today, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help out. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.